Everybody got to see how handsome I am.
And welcome in, everybody, to the 2024 Summit City Sports Roundtable for week number 6. We're all done admiring how beautiful Tim is over there on camera. But my name's Jeff Mahoney. We got Landon Traylor, Tim Atkinson, Thad Goff, Joe Northern. Another busy weekend in the 2-6-0. And we're going to start with Tim Atkinson, who had one of the better games on the night. It was Leo hosting East Noble in a battle of Class 4A Northeast 8 Hoosier or Northeast 8 conference teams. And Tim, in that game, East Noble wins it 35-29. And really, it almost didn't even feel that close. East Noble just kind of really running away with it in the second half.
Yeah, Leo got a late score, a throw from Esguera to, I believe it was Sampson, inside the red zone that cut to that deficit, which did give them an opportunity for an onside kick and recover. But I think, Jeff, there was 6 seconds left at that point or something. So it would have been pretty much a miracle for Leo to come back out of that ball game. You know, my quick takeaways from it is Nathan Foster is a legitimate top level running back for Leo. This kid is an absolute speedster, as you see right there, over 200 yards rushing. They fed him a lot. There's no question about it. He did get some really good blocking, but it's once he gets through that initial hole that you see defenders have an angle on him, and he turns on the jets, boy. And I'm telling you what, this is one of the faster running backs that we've seen all year long. And we've seen some really good ones, some really fast backs. But this kid right here, you know, look at that sidestep and then gone. I mean, the kid is absolutely tremendous. He came up a little there on a good play by East Noble, not to give up on the play, but he had one earlier I think it was their first touchdown, where he really bolted through. This might be it here on this left
75-yarder, Tim.
Yeah, this is it right here. You see him sidestep, Jeff. We always talking about that jump cut and then the explosion. Then look at the speed to get away from the defenders. The kid is absolutely a stud, and only a junior. Nathan Foster, only a junior. I think he's got some really high potential, could do some really good things for Leo. There's no question about it. My other takeaway for the Leo side is they just could not get the passing game going at all. Brock Schott just had 2 catches. He had that 1 touchdown run that he broke the tackle on. A DB is going to have a real hard time tackling Brock Schott out in the open field, especially when he has his balance. And for him to take those to the house showed you the speed as well. He had 2 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. But the Landon Hepner, just 2 catches, 15 yards. He was pretty much a non-factor on the offensive side of the ball for Leo, and that had a lot to do with up front for all 3 levels, really, on the defense for East Noble. They were very impressive. As we're going to take a look here, I think this is Brock's touchdown.
Yep.
They threw a lot of these quick hitters right there. There's no chance to bring him down with an arm tackle right there, and then he shows you the speed, why he's so valuable on the tight end on the offensive side of the ball for Brock Schott. On the defensive side, you see him with the deflection right there and the fumble recovery. Go ahead, Jeff.
That's just nuts, right? He's so fast off the line of scrimmage.
And he almost got to a couple of those, Jeff. They were throwing several. You were there with me. They were throwing several of those. After that first one, you could see Bradley Biddle was a little bit more hesitant just to let her rip. He was always looking to see where Brock was, but Brock almost got a couple of those. Whether that was a backward pass or not, you can argue all you want. It was called that way on the field, and live it looked. I mean, it's very, very close. But hey, Leo, they didn't take advantage of that. East Noble got the ball back and scored, but Brock off the defensive end, super difficult to stop. There's no question. But Leo just did not have enough offensively throwing the ball to be able to be balanced enough to give Foster some leeway. And when you look at East Noble's offense, I mean, my goodness gracious, Riley Biddle. Let's actually take a look right there, Jeff, at the tackles while you got them up. Their defense there for East Noble, absolutely insane how good they played. It started with that pick six. I believe it was Logan Hatton with the pick six. Mason Treesh back there, Agee off the edge. Of course, Dylan Krell is just an absolute beast on the linebacker role. This kid is so good. Here's one of the interceptions. East Noble just made great plays on the ball. And if you notice, a lot of these DBs that are making these interceptions had one heck of a game receiving on the receiving core for Riley Biddle and Coach Samuels. I mean, they absolutely played tremendous, did the wide receiving core. Looking at their numbers, Dylan Krill, of course, I've seen him for several years now. Look at this catch here. I mean, come on. That is a next level type of catch out there. I believe that was Swag. Yeah, that was Swag, I believe, with that catch.
8,000 views on Facebook alone.
Yeah, and there's a reason why. I mean, Jeff, we were calling the game live. We were both saying, I think Evan said it during the play-by-play. Oh, dang, he had him open, but he overthrew him, and then boom, he laid out and made that catch. A little swagger with swagger there. That was an outstanding catch that he had. But Riley Biddle, he's got kind of an awkward throwing motion. It comes from the hip a little bit that you brought to my attention, Jeff, on Friday. And but he whips it out there. He's got a very strong arm. And right, that was one of my favorite plays right there. They brought Krell out of the backfield to kind of watch the linebackers and the safeties bite on that. And then that left him wide open for that touchdown to Mason Treesh. Great play design by the coaching staff. And what Riley Biddle and Dylan Krell did is they sold it. They sold that play, which opened up their offensive player in Mason Treesh for that easy touchdown down the seam. Go ahead, Jeff.
Treesh kind of sold it too here, looking like he's going to block Hepner instead of coming out the gates on a route right away.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that until you just brought that to my attention for sure. That's an Army commit right there, and Hepner. Yeah. And they did pretty much everything they wanted to offensively for the most part. But it all started with Dylan Krell. The Mike Allstock comparisons are way played out over the years. There's no doubt, but this kid is built like him and is quick. He is absolutely a beast. He can get to that second level. I mean, he gets himself skinny, which is hard to do as a big fellow right there. And Hepner, one of the fastest players in the 260, has to push him out of bounds right there. He had the angle, but he had a touchdown run later in the game. I don't know, 60-some yards or something, whatever it was, that he broke off and really showed you the speed pulling away from the defenders. Here it is. Great blocking up front. You got to give credit for that. And then right there, that split of that defense right there, and then the speed to take it to the house. And this is one of my favorite celebrations right here. And Dylan Krell is, okay, I just played 150 snaps. I need a break. So Dylan Krell is just he's one of the top level Northeast Indiana football players that we've seen in 12 years, Jeff. He does everything for East Noble.
Totally agree with you. And I think that he is in the running for the Northeast Indiana Player of the Year, not just for what he's been doing this season, but just how productive he's been throughout his career. And Tim, I got to tell you, heading into this game, I thought it was going to be hard for Leo to run the ball. But, man, Nathan Foster averaged 10.2 yards per carry. And it's not like he had just 3 big carries and only 10 carries on the night. He had 26 carries in this game for 265 yards. So I thought it was a great job by the offensive line, and especially Foster, because, Tim, as you alluded to, he's making guys miss in the backfield and still breaking off big runs.
Yeah, I mean, he's special with that burst of speed. I mean, he does a little bit of, maybe not as powerful as a Uriah Buchanan from a year ago at Snyder, but that jump cut and that burst, and then his top end speed, I think, is quicker than Buchanan. He is a dynamic running back, and Coach Dorfler, he's got a really good one. And like I mentioned, only a junior. Their entire backfield is just juniors. Esguerra is a junior, had a little bit of an off game. Through those 3 interceptions. But a lot of that had to do with East Noble disguising things really well. This is Esguera's first, and that was one of my favorite plays right there, Jeff. Riley Biddle, just watch him stand in the pocket here and absolutely get smacked, and he throws a BB to his wide receiver. I mean, those are the type of plays that Riley Biddle had throughout the game. He's not afraid to get hit, and he finds that throwing slot, even with the low kind of throw, kind of Bernie Kosar-ish, if we want to go back some time, but kind of brings it from the hip and whips it sidearm. But he had an impressive game, 217 yards on the passing, 2 touchdowns, 66%, we'll round up, 67% completion percentage. That's going to get it done most nights, Jeff. And then when you add the 20 carries and 218 yards from Dylan Krell, that's an offense that has a 4A state title type of feel to it, Jeff. Yep. With that receiving core as well, with Hatton, Swagger, and Treesh, these kids go get the ball. They get open, they get themselves separation from their defensive backs, and then they're playing defense as well and reading the quarterback's eyes, as we saw Hatton with that first touchdown where he took it 91, 92 yards to the house. Esguera stared down his wide receiver down the center of the field, and Hatton came off his guy and just played center field on that, waited for the throw, and it came. And then the speed to be able to take it to the house was so impressive from Logan Hatton. Their defensive line put pressure on Esguera as well. I think the pass blocking, still good right there. He did take a hit, but I mean, right there, he was staring right down the center of the field, and Hatton, boom, got hit, but Hatton just overthrew him. And then Hatton, this right here is how you win state titles. It's these type of plays, and they have players all over the field, both offense and defense, that can do it. I was impressed with East Noble, as I've been with any team I've seen all year long.
Yeah, I would agree. And, one of the things about Riley Biddle, his arm strength is not something you see at most Friday night football games. Yes, it's an awkward release, but that ball has zip on it. And then at the end of the game, I'm not sure if this is it right here, Tim. I had clipped it off, but Biddle is in the middle of the field right here and does a backflip.
Yeah.
Before joining his teammates. That's when I knew that he was something special as an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, a little Stratton Fuller for you on the north side of the state. That was, he did a little handspring into a flip. It was that shows you the athleticism right there. When you look at his rushing, he's not looking to tuck the ball and go. Part of that is because of East Noble's offensive line played extremely well. They had their problems with Brock Schott, but Division I offensive linemen are going to have a problem with Brock Schott if they chose to play him on defensive end. But this kid is absolutely legit, and he's also just a junior, Jeff. He is going to lead this team next year as well. Losing Dylan Krell is going to be tough. There's no question about that. But it's about this year right now. I'm telling you, East Noble, they have it lined up to take this run and win the Northeast State Conference and have that momentum going to sectional number 19 the rest of their season. Norwell, Columbia City, both at East Noble, and then at New Haven, at Belmont. Of course, you look at that and probably say Columbia City's probably the toughest test right there, but that's going to be at home in Kendallville. Go up there and grab yourself some pork burgers. Kendallville is a great place. They bring out the fans like no other. They brought them out there against Leo. And I do want to say, before we move on to the other games, is the Leo fans, absolutely tremendous.
Yes.
Bringing the amount of people I saw out on the Leo sideline out, and I don't even think we saw that many at sectionals last year in the sectional championship against Dwenger. These fans absolutely love their Leo Lions, and you could see that Friday night as they were wrapped around the fence. It was standing room only, and it was early that they were there. We were one of the lucky ones. We didn't get a delay. AD David Boyce, we got him in, we got him out. I got to love him for that. We didn't have to wait around till 8 o'clock or 7:30 like some of you guys did. But it was everything we expected Friday night out at Leo Stadium, and I can't wait to see how this Northeast 8 Conference shakes out.
Yeah, I would agree. And boy, David Boyce, he's been hitting the weight room. He looks fantastic. He's in great shape. So yeah, a great game there, Tim, and a great call by you as well. So we're going to move on to Bishop Luers, who traveled to Concordia. Not going to lie, this one surprised me just a little bit. 38-0 was the final score. The score did not surprise me that much. But wow, just 34 yards passing for Bishop Luers. Landon, I guess they really didn't need to throw the ball last Friday, did they?
Absolutely not, Jeff. They had 328 total yards in that game. 30, as you mentioned, just 34 passing yards, 294 on the ground, led by Daria Williams with 233 yards and 4 touchdowns on Friday night over there. It was a fantastic performance from Williams, one of the best performances I've seen from a running back this season. His breakaway speed was amazing. His explosive play ability is amazing as well. He could turn a 5-yard gain into a 50-yard gain, as you see there, along of 65. He actually got wrapped up in the backfield on that one. So you could tell that in the beginning of the game, I thought it was going to be a little closer. It was 0-0 at the end of the first quarter. But you slowly started to see the Luers offensive line wear down the Concordia defensive line. And that's really where the lopsided stuff started to show. Luers basically just ran it until they were stopped. And quite frankly, they were not stopped.
Yeah, that's pretty evident right there. And for Concordia, obviously starting off the season 2-0, it's been tough inside the SAC. Luers, a 3A school, so right there with Concordia. But Coach Manigal's getting this thing turned around, and the thing that we've pointed to all season long with them is a little bit of that lack of depth, and I think that showed in this game as well that you had. Were you surprised that Luers? 10 passing attempts. Did it feel like they just didn't need to, or did they not have the ball that much?
So what I saw was I was surprised at first because they kept it on the ground a lot in the beginning of the game, and they weren't passing much, and it was 0-0. And they still kept it on the ground, and then they started to run away with it on the ground. That's when I started to say to myself, and on the air, keep running the ball. Feed them the ball. If they're not going to stop it, just keep pounding it. Keep pounding the rock. That's all you got to do. And I was surprised at first to see, I think they had just 3 passing attempts in that first quarter, one of them being an interception. So I was surprised a little bit, but as the game transpired, obviously I was not, because they dominated in the ground game.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And also, Landon, now they leave a lot off tape for their next opponents. They got a huge game this week up against Northside. Most people know, there was some back and forth before the game last year that was at Chambers Field. So these two teams right there, this is becoming kind of a heated rival. Boy, I remember years back when I was at Luers and Northside got the win over Bishop Luers as a really high-scoring game. Here it is. No, that was the loss right there. 19-14. Either way, this 52-49 game. Ever since that game right there, I felt like this matchup has been one of the best in the SAC. So that'll be a fun one for the people that head out to Luers Field on Friday night. Jack Andrews, Braden Corbett. Is this a first half, second half type of thing with the two quarterbacks?
So actually in the second quarter, Corbett came in relief of Jack Andrews. I think Coach Manigal, some things weren't going right for Concordia on Friday, clearly. And sometimes just bringing in that new face, a new arm might provide a little bit of a spark. We've seen it in college. Sometimes all you need is a little change at the quarterback position just for a game. And I think that's what he was trying to do, because at that point, I think it was 17-0 when Corbett came in the game. just to get something different. They had to score, and unfortunately, Corbett came in there and threw 2 interceptions. You never want to see a backup quarterback play like that. But given the circumstances, I thought he did his job fairly well coming in there. You have him highlighted. I was just about ready to talk about him. Jacob Levitt played his tail off, Jeff. He was in the backfield a lot. 9 total tackles at 2 sacks in that ball game as well. Or 3, I believe 2 sacks, excuse me. But he was a phenomenal player to watch on Friday. One of the highlights for Concordia.
Yeah, and another phenomenal player having a great season is Braden Migrant. I believe he's an outside backer over there at Bishop Lures, but 3 tackles for a loss and 4 tackles. He had 2 sacks in that game. I mean, Lures is becoming the premier team in Northeast Indiana at sacking the quarterback.
Yeah, their defense is phenomenal, Jeff. I mean, they're going to get to the quarterback. If you have a scrambling quarterback, good for you. But if you don't, you might want to get some protection on him, get a warranty.
Yeah. Jack Belschner, he's still injured. I imagine he didn't play in that game.
Yeah, that name doesn't. I don't think I said that name on Friday. They did have some sophomores make an interception that I thought was worth noting in that ball game. I believe it was Colin Weber made a nice interception for Bishop Lures on Friday, and then also Davion Surrey made a nice interception as well in that ball game too. That's what I was thinking of. More.
Jannard Moore. Wow, yeah, and Justin White, so the youngest of the White brothers there, getting interception as well. Yeah, Davion Surrey is a special player for sure.
He got some carries in the game as well.
Oh, from the offensive backfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, another great game by Zach Spielman, who's quietly put together a fantastic defensive career there at Concordia. Would you say that your biggest takeaway from this game then is just the sheer dominance of that Bishop Lures defense? Because we knew that they were going to have one of the best defensive backfields in Northern Indiana, but I would venture to say their defensive line could be the best also, as scary as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, it was for me. The offense played great as well. Williams with 4 touchdowns. That's obviously a highlight. But to me, holding a team to 83 total yards the entire game, I mean, with your backups in the second half, in the fourth quarter, 83 total yards for Concordia. All game long.
Yeah.
That's what really stood out to me. And that's why I think the defense, a lot's on the line this upcoming Friday against Northside. Can they slow them down is the real question. But I'm really impressed with the Bishop Lures defense.
Yeah, just real quick, I'd seen a post, Carroll getting the win against Snyder 30-3 puts Carroll in the driver's seat for the Summit Athletic Conference Championship. I feel like Lures, Carroll, that can go either way right there. We could have another share for the conference championship.
Absolutely. I mean, you just look at it all comes down to me. The B division championship, honestly, is next week, Northside and Bishop Lures. I think whoever wins that game will come out on top in the B division.
Yeah, and then obviously this game against Homestead is going to be a huge one.
Massive.
The past 5 years, the Lures Homestead game has been some of the more, just firework type games, with explosive great offensive play calling, just all the way around. That's been a fun matchup throughout the years for sure.
Absolutely, Jeff.
Thad, we're going to go over to Thad Goff, who was over at Wayne Stadium, and the Generals' absolute dominant win over there against Southside. And Coach Haydock switched some things up, didn't he, Thad?
He did. He'd been going with Trey Dillard at the beginning of the season as his quarterback, but you see a little evidence of it right there. Harold Mack got the start. He was throwing warm-up tosses with the receivers. So was Trey McCraney at the beginning, and Harold Mack got the start. Mack, from what I understand, has experience at the quarterback position, but he goes 7 for 14. Showed off a little bit of arm strength in that game. He wasn't throwing a whole lot of deep balls, but there were a few passes where you got the sense that, okay, this guy can chuck the ball down the field. He did that to Jacob Sharon at one point in the game, and I think he went for a deep ball to Dillard, who was playing wide receiver on Friday night.
Yeah, speaking of, a 63-yard touchdown reception for Trey Dillard. He's an absolute Mack truck running down that sideline. I'm going to pull it up, but can you just take us through that play?
Well, it was a short completion, a little out route that Dillard ran, and Mack just found him out in the flat. And once he found him, Dillard had one guy in his way and just ran him over, and there was nobody else in that defensive backfield who was going to catch Trey Dillard. You'll see it right here. There's Dillard with the catch. Just a little short little out route, and just one guy gets in his way, and all he has to do is run him over and get to the end zone.
Kind of reminds me of when DBs would have to come up and tackle Jakar Williams, the quarterback from New Haven from a few years ago. Defensive backs did not like coming up and having to hit Jakar Williams. I'm sure that they probably are thinking the same things about Trey Dillard.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're talking about a 6'6", obviously power forward when the winter sports season comes around, but he's a big dude. He's somebody that you don't want to get in his way, and Dillard showed that he had what it takes at the wide receiver position.
You talk about Harold Mack and having some quarterback experience. It's my understanding that him and Jacob Sharon split time at quarterback their freshman year. You can see Mack right here. He doesn't look like your prototypical quarterback as far as, just dropping back, getting into position, but make no mistake about it. He's a playmaker, and he was making plays Friday night.
He absolutely is. And that was the throw I was talking about earlier where he went deep to Jacob Sharon. That was just a little play action pass, and he showed that he could sit in the pocket and take the hit and still deliver a good football. As for Jacob Sharon, he's a guy who he played a little running back last year, and he was gave a little boost to Wayne's running game. You're seeing him a little bit more at the receiver position these days, and with the quarterback change, it seemed like he got a few more targets.
Geez, Kamar Nelson averaged 14.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, they brought him in as mainly the short yardage back, particularly on a 3rd and goal inside the 1, and that was his first touchdown of the game. Mack went on to score 2 touchdowns, but he also converted on, I believe it was a 4th and 4. That was his big touchdown run, 17-yard touchdown run. But he was mostly used as a short yardage back. Josiah Stallings was a primary ball carrier, but Kemar, he's a big guy. He's somebody that you can rely on in these short yardage situations. Then Stallings, that's his 1 touchdown on the game. He was a primary back in the offense, and when Wayne gets this run game going, it seems like they can do a lot of good. And they got the running game going and ended up getting a 36-0 win, albeit it did take a while to get to that 36-0 mark. Both teams committed a lot of penalties in the game.
Well, I will say this, at least Wayne has big numbers on their jerseys this year, so that's really good. One of the things, you posted this right here, Thad. This is unbelievable. This is a man playing high school football. Take us through this one.
Well, this was a gutsy call. You're down 22-0 in the 4th quarter, so Andre Goodwell, I think, trying to light up his team, and then Kemar Nelson chases down Josiah Malone there, who got most of the yardage he needed to get the first down, but Nelson was able to stop him just short. Yeah, there's Nelson running a long way to make that tackle. I mean, the one-arm tackle is impressive enough. He covered a lot of ground to get to that kid.
Wow. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah. I don't know the last time I've seen something like that. I mean, Kemar Nelson, it just floors me with the recruiting. How are guys just not all over Kemar? But I'm sure that's going to be picking up here in a little bit. Now, let's go over to Southside. That obviously 0-5 on the season. The Archers have had their opportunity this year to win games. I do not feel like this is a Southside team from maybe 4 years ago. It's a different Southside team. They play with a lot of pride. But yeah, it took the tough loss, 0-5 on the season. How is the body language on the field? Did the guys look like they were down a little bit? Who are some of the players that really stood out to you? You talked about Josiah Malone. on that fake punt attempt. He's put together a very good season for Southside, but tell us your thoughts, Thad.
I'd say the player that impressed me the most was Chris Moon. He was one of the running backs that Southside used, and he even ran for some power. Fought through this particular play. He fought through multiple tacklers. You might be able to read the post up there, depending on what kind of screen you might be watching on. But he fought through multiple tackles there and was able to get a first down out of that. And there were a number of times where Moon touched the football, and he was able to get some not just positive carries, but quality carries, like 4 or 5 plus yards when he was touching the football. We know Javon Irby can run with the football. We saw a little bit of evidence of that. I think that we're going to see more good things from Irby as his career goes on. Moon, he's a junior. He'll only be there for 1 more year. But I think with a little 1-2 punch between Irby and Moon, this Southside running game can certainly get some things going. That's one of the many things that Harold Mack brings to the table is his speed and his running ability. One thing about Southside, though, one thing that they definitely need to work on, and I'm sure Andre Goodwell has addressed this, they got to work on managing the play clock. Late in the first half, they had an opportunity to get down the field, get some points. They did get off a field goal attempt. It landed short, but they could have definitely gotten themselves closer, definitely gotten themselves in position for a touchdown, had it not been for the fact that on several occasions they let the play clock run down way too much and a couple of times had to burn some timeouts. You're in a situation where you can get points on the board before halftime, and even though they did get the field goal set up, it ended up way short. You manage the play clock better, you could end up with a shorter field goal or a chance at 6 before the half. And I'm sure that that's something Andre Goodwell has addressed and will address as the days go on.
Hey, Thad, are they bringing the quarterback to the sideline for every play to call the play, Southside?
A lot of the cases, yes. Whether it was KJ Alexander, who started the game, played the whole first half, or Robert Murphy, who played the better part of the second half, a lot of times they were coming to the sideline to get the play. But, well, that was also the case with Harold Mack. So they're getting the plays from the sideline.
Okay, so you don't think that was the main reason of why they're running the clock down so low?
That might have had a little something to do with it, but like I said, that was going on both sides. The quarterbacks going to the sideline to get in the plays. Gotcha. And you see that a lot of days with a lot of teams, whether it's at high school level, college level. They look to the sideline to go get the plays. It's just in some cases, to your point, Tim, it seemed like with Alexander and with Murphy, they did take a little extra time getting the plays from the sideline.
Okay.
This is a fun play right here. As many know, KJ and Tyree Eldridge were middle school teammates at Miami where they won a city championship. And then here you have Eldridge making the tackle on KJ.
Yeah, Javante Eldridge had a good night. He had a sack.
Javante, this was the freshman?
Yeah, that's the freshman, number 99.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, he had a good night. A sack, 1.5 tackles for loss, and it seemed like he was constantly in the backfield disrupting things for Wayne. Another guy, you might have seen him there on your screen, is number 22, Lanas Martin. He finished the game with 2 sacks, and he really – this is really a Wayne team that has a big front line that can disrupt a lot of opposing passing games and a lot of run games. So we talk about Kemar Nelson, and he deserves a lot of that. But with Javante Eldridge and with Lanas Martin and Jaden Bushy, Bravion Query, that's a whole bunch of guys in that front seven making an impact for Wayne, and they make them a team to be reckoned with down the stretch.
It's a big-time throw there by Alexander finding Josiah Malone. That's a beautiful pass in a clean pocket.
Yeah, and that was one of the good plays that Southside had. That was toward the end of the first half. They're getting in position to perhaps get a touchdown before halftime, perhaps get a field goal, get them on the board, but then penalties just hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Joe Northern we have on. Joe, I know we had some difficulties over at Woodland. Were you able to take in much of the game?
To quote a great NFL commentator, I'm actually going to call both games that we had wacky and wild issues with in the ACAC, if that's okay. let's start with Woodland and Southern Wells. I was able to take in the action, and I can't tell you, it was the Fighting Fleeks just continuing to make things happen day after day after day. Of course, when you're playing against a team like Southern Wells, you know what's kind of to be expected to be from time to time. As we take a look at some of the at least some of the leaders for Woodland again, Fleet getting the 3 touchdowns on the board. He was able to cut up the Southern Wells defense like Swiss cheese at the end of the day. So I really loved what I saw from him. But in the meantime, there were a little bit of signs of optimism. Again, just taking a look down at some of the stats here. Again, it was mainly just a rushing, to me at least, a rushing type game where we saw Fleet get the touchdowns over and over and over. But in terms of Southern Wells, the 45% completion rating for Trey Slusher, again, Woodland just kind of replacing second half, getting some of the guys that you wouldn't necessarily see start off a game compared to otherwise down the road. So I think it gave Southern Wells a little bit of a chance just to at least try to stay in it as well as they could. But at the end of the day, I think within the first 12 minutes of the first quarter, I already saw a few people leaving for the exits, and that did not include the class of 1974, which they honored as a team for their 50th anniversary. Many may know that is one of the most successful Woodland teams of all time. So there was a lot of the nostalgia factor going on more so than anything that evening. So spirits were up, spirits were high, but for Southern Wells, not necessarily the case at the end of the day, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, look at Shaden Snyder there, 1 carry for 58 yards. A lot of young talent over there at Woodland. The head coach Brock Rohrbacher in his first year is developing.
And I love really what kind of basically the run offense he's been able to develop over time with Woodland. And just, again, this is going to be a team that is going to make a run at it in the ACAC down the road. And even taking a look at the rest of their schedule, if you can maybe pull an upset win over Jay County next week, you're looking at a team that may have an opportunity to hit 500 next year. I mean, not next year, but hit 500 coming up in the next couple of weeks. Yes, you got to go to Prairie Heights. Yes, you got to take on South Adams. But if you can get 2 out of the 4, or I mean, if you can escape with that win at Jay County, you win your next 3, that puts you in a pretty good position to go above 500, which for any first-year head coach, you really can't complain about that at the end of the day.
Yeah, especially after the season that Woodland had last year, going 2-8, but had the coaching change midway through. So it would really be a nice thing for those seniors. When you talk about Drew Fleek, Carter Fleek, Ty Loudon, it would be really nice for them to get a 500 season this year for sure.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just sneak away at Jay County, which they've kind of been iffy, at least from what I've seen, some of them this year too. I mean, taking a look, 2-3. Their losses obviously come in against the 2 big losses coming against really the leaders in Adams Central and Bluffton, which we know they're going to be playing for that league title coming up in a few weeks. That's a little tease I have coming up for the other game I'm going to talk about. But I think if you can escape and maybe get a win against a wounded Jay County, I think that's going to give you an opportunity to get above 500 and at least send the seniors out on a good note. But that's why they play the games.
So we just got another message here from a fan talking about how Krell is a wrestler along with Biddle, Brennan, Miller, and many more. So take note of that, folks watching at home. Multi-sport athletes. You talk about a wrestler. I didn't know that Krell was a wrestler. I know that he's a baseball player. But in the same sense, Tim, throughout that game, were we not talking about the low center of gravity for Dylan Krell? Not only that, how great he is on the balls of his feet, a la, jumping rope or something that can train those fast twitch muscles in the balls of your feet. He is very, very unique. I was talking to a coach today that said, yeah, we offered Dylan Krell as a linebacker. And I thought, linebacker? Like, he's a great running back because of that burst of speed, that low center of gravity, and the great feet that he has.
Yeah, and we saw when I mentioned getting skinny, him turning himself in a pocket, but still going at pretty good speed. I mean, that comes from the agility, which you can directly correlate that to wrestling. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's Craig. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Yeah, that is that says a lot. That says a lot. And all the good schools, they want you to be multi-sport athletes. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. The more sports you play, the more muscles you're training.
I don't think that this is any mistake here. I mean, I'm sure Coach Amstutch was preaching that to the guys. Playing multiple sports allows your body to develop different muscle groups that can then complement each other in said sport, whatever season it's in. So let's get back to talking about the games, guys, because this week we got another full week ahead of us. We'll start with Landon, because I know that he's very excited to call his alma mater. Landon is going to be doing the Carroll at Wayne game. Carroll coming off their best win of the season by far when they're taking on a rival like Snyder. For those that don't know, head coach Doug Dinan and head coach Kurt Tittman were assistant coaches together on the Snyder staff with Russ Isaacs for many years. So then when I saw this 30-6 final at Carroll, boy, I was surprised a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Watching that tape, it was homecoming for Carroll. The place was packed. You could tell that there was some sort of energy even in the pregame show that I watched. You just felt like something was going to happen this game. And it did. They really put a hurting on Snyder. I haven't seen a Snyder loss like that in quite some time. They just looked rattled. They were very uncharacteristic on Friday. That was not like Snyder football at all. 30-6, throwing a pick six, 2 interceptions. You see it right there. That's not Snyder football. Snyder football is not giving up 30 points either. So a phenomenal win for Carroll. That was their biggest win, I think, since the semi-state victory in 2022. It was also a statement win for the Chargers. You look at their schedule. They lost to Warren Central, Hamilton Southeastern and Center Grove early in the year. They've now won 3 straight games, and this was the icing on the cake. You look at the schedule. They put it to Southside. They put it to Dwenger. Now they got a top 10 team coming into their place. How are they gonna hold up against another state-ranked team? They lost both of them. They made a statement by beating another state-ranked team in their own home place. So big win for the Chargers, and even on the other hand, a big win for Wayne as well. As Thad mentioned, they really ran the ball well for 688 yards all season long with 11 touchdowns, and they got a good big defensive front as well. So it'll be a fun one on Friday. You got Jimmy Sullivan with 780 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, just 1 interception, 397 rush yards for Jimmy football this year, 5 touchdowns, 79 rush yards a game. He leads the team. Your quarterback leads the team with rushing yards and rushing yards a game. And if all else fails, if any chance somebody could stop Jimmy Sullivan on the rushing attack, which Wayne is a good candidate for that, as we saw last week against Southside. Nate Stark's in the backfield as well, averaging 59 yards a game with 2 touchdowns all year. So it'll be a fun one at Wayne Stadium on Friday for sure. Last year was a tight game. I believe it was a 7-point game. Might be a little bit of the same this year as well, Jeff.
Yeah, I remember that game last year because it was a little bit of a shocker, 17-10. And one of the things that Wayne was able to do was get pressure on Jimmy and come up with a couple of interceptions in that game. Do you feel like Wayne poses more of a threat or a different threat than what Carroll's seen this year?
I do. I mean, looking at that Wayne versus Southside game last week, Wayne looks like they're putting the pieces together slowly. It took them a little bit to get to the party. They lost 3 straight, I believe, or maybe 2 straight. I know that after the Addicts win.
Well, it was 2 straight.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. They had the Riley game that ended at halftime, basically, and didn't get picked up.
Right. Riley didn't come back. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Thanks, Dad. So it looked like they're starting to put the pieces together last Friday. You know, that was the most complete game that I saw from Wayne. The Addicts game, obviously a big win, but they really looked like a good, solid team that's coming together on Friday. So I do think that they can propose a threat that Carroll hasn't seen yet.
I got a question for you, Landon. Do you think there's any chance you got the big rivalry game next week against Homestead at Homestead? Is there any chance they're already looking ahead to that Spartan rivalry matchup a week from now and maybe overlook Wayne?
If I know Coach Dinan, I don't think he's going to be preaching to his team all week long that we need to focus on the task at hand, and that's beating Wayne one game at a time. However, I do know that these are high school players. They are focused on, you know, at least for me, when I was in high school, it was beat Homestead, beat Sparty. Everything was beat Sparty, beat Sparty, beat Sparty. So there could be a chance, especially with the rivalry of that magnitude with Carroll and Homestead. But Coach Dinan team, that doesn't really happen often. But not saying it couldn't, but it doesn't happen often.
Here's a special player in the 260, Eli Newhouser. I know we've talked a bunch about him because he's also one of the highest rated baseball players in the class of, what would that be, 2027?
Yes.
Yes, 27.
2028.
Yep, sophomores.
Newhouser now has 44 tackles on the season, 3.5 tackles for a loss. Add a sack to that one right there. He's also got a fumble recovery, but he goes about 6'3", 220 pounds. I mean, last year as a freshman, he looked like a varsity player. How excited are you to see the sophomore linebacker?
I'm really excited to see it, Jeff. I mean, you all those stats. This kid's a monster. I mean, something like I haven't seen before, especially for a sophomore, guys. We're talking about a sophomore, 2 years of eligibility left after this one. So excited to see him in his early days before maybe he's playing at the next level on national TV, maybe on ESPN, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people thought that he would be a Division I baseball type of guy, but I'm sorry, 6'4", 220 pounds, and he can move. Don't get it mistaken. He can move. I mean, you got a Brian Urlacher type on your defense for 2 more years.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's something that Coach Dinan can build his team off of. Please don't say that name. That gives me nightmares from the Bears-Packers rivalry.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great sophomore class they have right there over at Carroll on both sides of the ball, really. I mean, that's a class that could propel them. You know, if they got a quarterback that can step in after Jimmy graduates. But the sophomore class is a very good class for Coach Dinan.
Absolutely. Something to look forward to. Definitely.
Yeah. And for those that are wondering who's up next at running back, it's Lauer right here. Billy Lauer led the team last year as a freshman in rushing tackles. So we're going to see a new junior running back next year in Billy Lauer. And honestly, if they need to call on him this year as just a different type of back to bring in there, because all of their backs right now are uber quick. They're kind of those scat back type running backs. DeJon Green might be a little bit bigger than Nate Starks, but both to me seem very similar. It'll be fun to see if Lauer picks up a few more carries as we move on.
Absolutely.
And then obviously with this receiving core right here, Van Pelt, Brady Road, Mason Boffman. Should be a good game on Friday. Enjoy that one, Landon.
Excited for it. Definitely excited for it.
And I know Hunter is texting. He's trying to get his soccer game to finish up so he can join us. But he's going to be at Concordia in Southside. New Haven at Columbia City is Thad Goff. And Thad, this is a game right here that could make New Haven's season. If they can roll into Columbia City and pull off the upset, I mean, that would be a huge, huge thing for head coach Vance Shear in his first year. And they've got the nice run game. And to be honest with you, their quarterback has done well as well. I mean, for a while there, he was in the top 10 passers in Northeast Indiana. But Thad, your thoughts on this game? Columbia City, just way too much power in the offensive backfield and the offensive line?
Columbia City's got a lot going in their offensive backfield. They've got the power with Trace Parrish. They've got the the slot backs, Gavin Smith and Landon Fazio, they can give the ball to. I think if New Haven can establish some early offense, get the run game going with DJ Simpson, get the pass game going, maybe get out ahead, get Columbia City playing behind this, not behind the sticks, but playing from behind early on, they might be able to. I think they definitely have a chance in that case. I think back to Columbia City's game against Leo last year. Leo got out ahead of them by multiple possessions in the second half, and Columbia City, they're a team that likes to run the ball, and they had to put a lot on Grayson Bradbury's shoulders in that particular game, and it proved to be too much, particularly against that Leo defense. But I think if New Haven can establish the offense early on, I think they definitely have a chance. Now, that being said about Grayson Bradbury, the game that I did just over a week ago, Huntington North at Columbia City, Bradbury didn't have to throw the ball all that much. He's coming off a game against DeKalb where he went 9 for 13, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Bradbury can definitely get it done. But whatever the case may be, I don't think that Columbia City is going to go away from their running game. Even if they do fall behind early, they've got so many weapons in that backfield. I haven't even mentioned Stratton Fuller yet. He's a weapon at running back or at receiver. I don't think Columbia City is going to go away from their running game, and I think the way they've started the season and kind of the momentum they have, even if they do fall behind early, I don't think that's going to faze them. And I do think they're going to come out with a lot of energy against New Haven, especially since, remember what happened to Columbia City last year. They started the season 5-0, and then they kind of got into the meat of the conference, what really was the meat of the conference at the time, the New Havens, the East Nobles, and then Leo, and then finished the season with Norwell. They lost all 4 of those games, and that 5-game winning streak became a thing of the past. So Brett Fox remembers that. These players remember that. And I'm sure that Columbia City is going to go in with a lot of energy. Hey guys, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep this train going. Let's not let this derail like it did last year.
Yeah, you're right. I totally forgot about that. But that Norwell loss right there was not a good loss for Columbia City. No losses are, but that was particularly bad at the time. And I remember, I think it was Austin De Leon hit a big field goal in that game, which kind of cemented his legacy there as the place kicker at Norwell. He's now the place kicker at St. Francis, as Thad can attest, doing the St. Francis football games.
Yeah, he had a great game, or had a good game on Saturday. I will say he did miss an early kick in that St. Francis game. I saw the replay. I was looking at that thing and I'm going, are we sure he missed that?
Well, the refs have a pretty good vantage point down there on the field.
Yeah, they usually do.
Well, Thad, Tim and I were discussing, the NE8 conference battle here as we head towards the second half of the regular season, and really going to be hard for Columbia City, we feel, to win this NE8. Probably get the win this week, but then traveling to East Noble, then having to host Leo. So you got your gauntlet there in week 7 and 8.
Yeah, they definitely do. And, like I said, I think they remember last year where they went through that gauntlet and ended up with a 4-game losing streak to close out the regular season. That East Noble game is definitely going to be a challenge. That Leo game is definitely going to be a challenge. Norwell just barely edged out New Haven this past week, but they might be starting to pick up some momentum, and Columbia City has to go there. However, I think if you were to ask Brett Fox, they think they probably have the pieces that they can match up with a Leo, match up with an East Noble, and I think they're pretty confident going into these next few games. So yes, it will certainly be a challenge, but from all I can see, I would say that Columbia City likely is up to that challenge.
No stats right there, but you're right. Norwell, that Belmont win right there, I don't think many people thought it would be 55-0, but that was a big win right there for Norwell. And like you said, Thad, they are definitely gaining some momentum. And that takes us to Joe Northern, actually, who's going to be at East Noble on Friday for the game against Norwell. So will the Knights be able to keep that train rolling and maybe pull off a massive upset in Kendallville?
Well, if you talk about massive upset, that might be one of the biggest upsets of the year in riding that positive momentum that we've seen Norwell do. Taking a look at the first 3 games of the season, they've only put up 13 points. Since then, they've put up 80. Yes, of course, one of those games comes against Belmont, but then again, not many people were expecting that to be 55-0. And in that game against New Haven last Friday night, they started off the game at 22 points in the first quarter. So the real big key at the end of the day is Norwell. If you start off hot with that positive momentum and really try to slow things down against East Noble, you might have yourself a chance there. But then again, East Noble, it feels like to me, they are the team riding with all the house money and Plattner and Krell and Tresh at the end of the day. So they might be thinking the same thing, is let's just keep taking this day by day by day. But at the same time, I kind of feel as if this could be a trap game if they don't take it as seriously, because you take a look at some of the upcoming schedule for East Noble on top of that. You do have that Columbia City game coming up the week after. So if you're already looking ahead to that match and not looking forward to the task at hand, not only you're going to feel like this is going to be a trap game, but all of a sudden the 88 becomes really anybody's can of soup at this point. And at that point, Columbia City's to lose.
You said East Noble's been playing with house money. Dylan Krell, is that what you're referring to?
Oh, well, not only Dylan Krell, but I mean, just like just the continual, the offensive attack that we've seen from Plattner averaging just over 51 a game, Tresh with over 60. But yeah, I mean, Dylan Krell is house money, but he's got some insurance markers on there too. I'll let you figure out what reference I made there. So.
Yeah, big time insurance. Tim talked about Logan Hatton and what Hatton did with that big interception return. Tim, what was that, 92 yards that he
92. Yep.
And he had to weave through the Lion defenders, but or the offensive guys, I should say. But Logan Hatton, big time player, had a huge game against Leo. I know that you've seen Hatton play before. What's your thoughts on the senior wide receiver defensive back? Oh, Joe, that was for you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if you were talking to me or Tim. I mean, like, I really love how Hatton is just, again, able to try to weave his way around one way or another. But, again, he's really kind of like taking a look at the yardage. Not somebody that you see them immediately go to compared to Tresh and Swagger. But Hatton is kind of like that spark plug that can really light things up for you when you least expect it at the end of the day. So I love what I've seen from Hatton so far this season. And I think some of the younger sophomore twos with you can go back one page, as I see Hatton up there with 90 on the season thus far. But defensively too, I think this is a team that obviously has their seniors. It doesn't feel like a last dance per se. And then taking a look too by the tackles, Krell with 41, Hatton again with 36. It's a senior heavy defense, a senior heavy squad that just feels like there's so much to look forward to. And as you mentioned earlier on, taking those dual sport athletes to the next level. I like what I've seen from Richie too, as you're pointing out, that average of 13 tackles per game. He is going to be the big defender that I think is going to be the difference between making it 2 or maybe 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, Tim, you called both of these guys' names a lot last Friday.
Yep.
Agee, we'll start off with him. I mean, from his defensive end position, he plays pretty dang big for his frame. He's already a big guy out there, but
yeah, he reminds me a lot of Thomas Pori on the defensive line for Bishop Dwenger. You know, tall, not super thick, but reads the blockers really well and never takes on a blocker straight on. He's always given an angle, which leads him into great spaces. But that whole they play a 3-4. The 3 down linemen, they were having their way. They are very impressive And Aggie is one of those players for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, guys, I don't know if Hunter's going to be able to join us here getting done with the Carroll and Homestead game, but any other thoughts here on week number 6? A lot of great matchups once again here in the Summit City and surrounding area. I mean, just looking Homestead at Snyder, that's the game that I'm going to be at along with Jaron.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, Jeff. You know, after that just disappointing performance against Carroll last week, Snyder back at home. Well, Spooler but hosting Homestead, who's got a lot of momentum right now as well with scoring the ball. How do you see it? I expect Coach Kurt Timpney's one of the best, and we'll have him on later on the week to talk about it. But you know, I expect Snyder to be ready, and those players that have a completely opposite performance come against Homestead. What do you think?
Yeah, well, even in the Carroll game, you saw that Sullivan still completed, I think, less than 50% of his passes in that one, even though he did throw for 3 touchdowns. But the Snyder defensive backfield is still pretty elite, Tim, wouldn't you say, in Northern Indiana?
Oh, from what I've seen.
Yeah, Logan Fry, Landon Fry, Brandon Logan, Jamarion Calabodi, Alan Bolton. I mean, they just have
Blakey up front.
They're going to make it really, really hard. This is going to be Mike White's hardest game of the year. I mean, that's tough to say, obviously, them opening up with Carmel. And who was their week 2 opponent?
Who's Homestead's?
Yeah.
It was
the 2, Carmel and Noblesville. But, I mean, since then, this Snyder defense is going to cause them fits. But that being said, I mean, Snyder's offense left a little to be desired there against Carroll. Just had the 2 field goals, which is nice to see, you know, them getting some field goals, because you're going to have to rely on your field goal kicker at some point throughout the season. Snyder did last year, and it worked out well with the Mongtung, what was it, Tim, a 47-yard field goal to beat Mishawaka.
Sounds right.
Field goal.
Sounds right.
So, I think this is going to be a close game. I think both defenses, I don't want to say that. Snyder's defense definitely better than Snyder's offense. I kind of feel like Homestead's offense and defense are right about the same level, because Homestead's got some serious players when you look at their receiving core in Kennedy, and we'll pull them up here, all the different guys they have there at receiver. But now that we have Hunter on real quick, we're just going to go back to his game last week, which was an exciting game. It was Northside pulling off the dub. And that game was a lot closer than some might have thought, but 29-22 over Northrop was your score. Hunter, tell us about that game over there at Spooler between those 2 rivals.
Man, I tell you what, it was a really, really long game. 57 flags were thrown in that game. It was just a battle back and forth between the 2. But, man, I tell you what, if I haven't seen anybody better than Tristan Newsome around the area, one of the top quarterbacks that I've seen this year, he did a tremendous job running all over the field. I think he accounted for the 4 touchdowns that Northside ended up scoring, did a tremendous job finding receivers, running all over the field. Did a tremendous job there for Northside. David Cowson on the other end had kind of an off night. They went to try to run the ball a lot, did Northrop, but Northside was just right there defensively every single time, getting a bunch of stops. It was back and forth all game long. Good battle between the 2, and Northside obviously came out with the dub. Great performance shown by Tristan Newsome.
266 yards passing for Callison. Did it just get harder to pass the ball when they were getting in the red zone? Because I see his numbers thinking, man, that's pretty dang good night for Callison, but no touchdown passes.
Yeah, Northside did a tremendous job, especially in the second half. The red zone defense was just tremendous there. They brought a lot of pressure up front, did the legends, and did a tremendous job getting to the backside of them. And then Northrop went for a lot of 4th down opportunities, 4th and short. Just couldn't find the right play to run. Northside's defensive line and their linebackers were in the face of North Callison every single time he had a chance to throw it.
Talk about Levi Portee. We have not seen a whole lot of him this year, the sophomore running back for Northrop. but what a game. Only 6 carries, but he made the most of those 6 carries for 57 yards, averaging 9.5 per with a long of 16 and the touchdown. What were your thoughts on Levi?
Yeah, he was listed as the third string running back on their depth chart. It was just the next man up mentality for Northrop. And Levi Porti absolutely filled that spot. Did a tremendous job on the handoffs, finding holes. His vision down the field was just tremendous, and did a tremendous job just as a sophomore too. There for Coach Bowen and the Bruins.
Boy, for some reason, I had in my mind that Jamari Brown was a junior, but he's only a sophomore also. So got some pretty special sophomores and special juniors over there at Northrop. Quay Guilford, just 3 catches. Hard to get him, just hard to get him targets and stuff. Were they double covering him or what?
Yeah, from what it looked like, Northside was just double teaming him. They brought the safety over along with the defensive back that was already on him multiple times. Northside did a tremendous job defensively, locking him up and holding him to short yardage whenever he even got his hands on the ball.
Malik Moore, he's been one of the hotter wide receivers in the state last couple of weeks. When you look at Moore here, 116 yards, 95 yards. I think in the Dwyer game, Tim, he did go out with injury early on. But Malik Moore has really exploded the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. He did.
Visually, Hunter, did Malik Moore look like one of the better players on the field? When you look at Quay Guilford, Jamari Brown, Tristan Newsome, I mean, do you feel like just in real time that Malik Moore really stood out?
Yeah, absolutely. He actually played defense as well there for the Legends and did a tremendous job defensively. But yeah, I think he was a very good wide receiver on the offensive side of things there for North. The Newsome, like I said, he just had a lot of time to move his feet, and when he didn't find the receiver open, he just took off with it. Malik Moore was one of those targets that Northrop was playing kind of off on a little bit, and he did a tremendous job there with his hands and getting the ball down the field for Northside.
Kingley just 3 carries in that game. Did he get hurt or anything, or is this coach trying out different players?
So Kingley only played the first drive. They said he got banged up last week. I'm not 100% sure about that. But he only played the first drive, and then he was kept out the rest of the game. And then they went to their backup running back.
Yeah, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, Jeff, that is when he originally got hurt.
Okay. And then Marcus Williams, a sophomore, getting 3 carries for Northside. But Tristan Newsome, your player of the game, 155 yards rushing, 200 yards passing with 4 touchdowns, like you said, Hunter. What a great game for Tristan Newsome, who once again, we talked about Krell. I think Newsome's right up there for player of the year type of considerations in Northeast Indiana. Malik Moore got his first interception.
Yep. Like I said, he was in on defense as well and did a tremendous job defensively there too.
That must be a game stat, Jeff, because he had one at the end of the first half against Concordia last week as well.
Excellent. Well, good to hear that he's having success in the defensive backfield as well. I mean, that added depth. You got a D1 type talent in Malik Moore that you can play in the defensive backfield, only going to make you that much better. And Hunter, you're going to be at Southside, Concordia out at Southside. This might be one of the more evenly matched games of the week over there at Southside. Both teams kind of desperately need to get a win right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to you. I'm getting all the close games, which is fun for me. But yeah, Southside and Concordia, I feel like it's going to be a great game. I've yet to see Concordia on the year. I know Southside, they're obviously playing some of the top teams around the area. But that first game I saw them against Marion, so excited to see how South has grown throughout the season. But Concordia, on the other hand, I'm hearing a lot of great things about Belchner on the defensive end. And then they're back in Sawyer as well. So, and Avery Cook, can't forget him too, one of the top weapons for the Cadets. So excited to call that matchup there between the two.
I think, not to hurt you, but I think Belchner is going to be out for some considerable time. He had a pretty bad leg injury in the Northside game, and I know he has not played since.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, Coach will get him back for the playoffs. as that sectional number 26 is a really neat looking sectional with powerhouses like West Noble, Garrett having a great year. Same with Lakeland. We've talked a lot about that sectional, and Lures also in 3A, more on the southern sectional, where once again not too many battles in there. Heritage got rolled up pretty good against Adams Central. So one more test for Adams Central. That'll be Bluffton if they're going to repeat as ACAC champions. But I would definitely say sectional 29, probably a little stronger than this sectional. I think you guys would agree. But other games in the SAC, was there anything else that you guys wanted to remark on? I mean, that Northside Lures game, let's just go around the horn real quick. Hunter, who wins this game, Northside at Lures?
Lures, without a doubt.
Well, how many points?
I'll take Lures by 21.
Okay. Thad?
I'm going to say Lures by 7.
Joe?
Give me Lures by 11.
Landon?
Lures by 7 in a low-scoring game.
In a low-scoring game. I can see it. Tim?
Yeah, we'll go Lures by 7 as well, but that is mainly for Coach Johnson to take this clip and send it to his players for a little bulletin stuff. You're welcome, Coach Johnson.
Oh, there you go. Tim, invoices in the mail, huh? Well, looking at Northside here, this is going to be the hardest game probably all season long for Tristan Newsom to do what Tristan Newsom does. Because make no mistake about it, Lures has the speed and athleticism along their whole defense, but definitely their defensive backfield when you include Felger and guys like Braden Migrant. So it's going to be tough for Tristan Newsom. You can see just the Lawrence North game, that was only a half, 2 carries for 4 yards. But other than that, he's been pretty dang dominant this season. Concordia was only 45 yards and 9 carries, but Tim, they really didn't need to go to him too much in that game, did they? Oh, am I muted? Oh, Tim, you're muted. Oh, you're on the phone. All right, good stuff. Well, but yeah, you get what I'm saying right there. I mean, I know Newsom would have ran for more than 4 yards in that Lawrence North game if it would have gone on, but over under 100 yards rushing for Tristan Newsom in this game. What do you think, Hunter?
It's hard to tell. I mean, he had a breakout game against Northrop, but Northrop is obviously a different team than Northside. I think Lures is going to hold him just under 100 yards. I'd give him like 95.
That's exactly what I was thinking, just under, which is still a great day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're not trying to say anything about that. What do you think, Thad? Over, under 100?
I'm going to go over.
Oh, okay.
I agree with that. For it to be a 7-point game, I think Newsom's got to go over 100.
Okay.
It's knowing that Kingley isn't full strength.
But could he be full strength by Friday? Only played the one series. That could be, just you want to make sure that the joints are still oiled a little bit there.
Jeff, he's got 2.5 years left of high school. I don't rush it if I'm him. And they got a really good backup running back in Jay-Sean Early as well. Yeah. That can really go. So I think Coach Johnson doesn't rush Kingley as long as Kingley doesn't make him.
Yeah, then also pretty soon here, Northside's going to be getting Leslie Woodson back.
Huge.
When you have Woodson and James Early Jr., that is a crazy combination coming from the edge for Northside.
Yep.
Anything else anybody else wanted to add?
No, I'm good.
How good are the pork burgers at East Nope?
If you haven't had a pork burger from Kendallville, you're missing out. It's they even have them at their baseball complex up there by the hot air balloon deal. They're all over Kendallville.
Oh, Kendallville's
good to know.
Kendallville's baseball complex. I mean, I don't know who makes the decisions in Kendallville, but they knocked it out of the park. They have got mesh netting behind, what is it, Tim, like 6 backstops or something?
Yeah, so there's 4 on one side of the park, and I believe there's 3 or 4 on the other side of the park. The different sets of diamonds are spread out a little bit. Then they got some they got batting cages that are underneath a barn roof so they don't get wet. That have open sides. They also put in a brand new like skate ramp and BMX ramp. They also got a couple soccer fields over there. It's a pretty good complex.
Yeah, and it's a nice park in that area too if you ever want to go walk your dog or something like that. But
Sure.
Hunter, while I have you on, what are your thoughts the Snyder and Homestead game? For those that don't know, Hunter was a manager for the Snyder football team and has one of those big state championship rings from the 2015 season.
Hold on, don't make me pull it out. I got it here. I was ready for it. I think I was ready for it, so we'll ring it.
On cue. I'm glad you got my text message earlier today. Hunter, the coming off a 30-6 loss. I don't know if you guys remember, but in this game last year, Coach Isaacs was saying how, the guys just kind of lost focus, and that's how Homestead was able to get that victory in the state championship season for Snyder. But talk about this time around now.
Yeah, from what I hear from last week is the Homestead and Dwenger game actually got a little bit chippy here out at Dave Walter Stadium, where I am actually sitting in my car at. So I feel like Homestead's going to come out a little bit fired up. I'm not 100% sure if Homestead, I know one of their players got banged up. I believe it was their quarterback that got banged up by Dwenger's defense, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're going to come out fired up here against this Snyder team, who is desperately looking for a comeback win after getting absolutely demolished by Carroll. I think both teams are going to come out fired up. I feel like it'll be a close game, but I mean, I can't go against my Panthers. I feel like Snyder's going to come away with this one.
Yeah, Mike White, 12 of 17. Then Evan England, the junior wide receiver, came in and completed 1 of 3 passes. So, wow, that'll be something to keep an eye out. But what a game by Jake Thrash, 102 yards rushing. That's one of those where Dwenger's trying to take away the run, and Homestead keeps pounding it with Thrash, and he gets a job done on the night as Homestead was able to hold on to the 17-14 victory. Anything else anybody else wants to add before we call tonight?
I want to give a shout out to athletic director Tori Curry at Southside High School. He told me in the next 2 games that I call at Southside, I'll be an official Southside Archers broadcaster. So I had a soccer game there last week, so this football game this Friday. Shout out to AD Curry.
Sweet. Does that come with some new gear or something?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what I'm in for Friday night. You better have something waiting for me.
That Archer logo is pretty sick. Of all of the Fort Wayne community schools, I think Southside ended up with the best redoing the logo.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, the Legends is pretty cool. Northrop gets in trouble for that bear. I think the Montana Grizzlies are mad at him or something. Northrop's set to get a new turf installed next year. Can you believe that?
Who is?
Northrop.
Their wear and tear from it. Both teams playing on it, I'd imagine. I'd imagine
Wow.
it has something to do with it. But
I guess they replace turfs now like every 7 years.
Wow.
Something
That's
like
crazy.
that. So,
Because that turf was only installed, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I thought Martone was telling me 7 years ago, but
It could be.
I just remember that one year when we had all the mud games, like week 9 was completely mud. What year was that? 2018, maybe? 17? Not a fun year. That was the year where the very first game of the season, it was just a downpour everywhere.
Yeah, and the fields paid the price the whole rest of the season.
The whole rest of the season, yeah.
Yep.
Like, because at that time you had Metro playing over at Wayne.
Right.
With a natural surface.
Yep.
And then Bishop Lures. I remember, I think Dwenger ended up going to Bishop Lures to play a playoff game because Zollner was just so bad.
Yep.
And Lures Field wasn't much better. So
No. I mean, that tells you how bad Zollner's grass used to be. I mean, it was really bad.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, until next week, enjoy your games this Friday. Everybody, please get out to those venues to support the teams. Tim was right. We've never seen Leo as packed as it was last Friday.
It was
Every
awesome.
seat was taken, and people were even standing up on the back row up against the fence.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen that there.
Yeah, it reminded me of the old days at Zollner when Dwenger had to play there, and they were on the away side. And some of those late 80s, early 90s games where Dwenger was always state bound, just the people lined up 3 or 4 deep up against the fence. Just a great environment for high school football players.
Not only that, but like a sea of kids, going playing tag or playing games of football
on the left side. Yep.
Those were the days.
Oh yeah.
Well, folks, everybody have a wonderful rest of your week. Jeff Mahoney, Landon Trailer, Tim Atkinson, Hunter Sosenheimer, Thad Goff, and we had Joe Northern on. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you on Friday night for the Friday Night Lights.